From the shadows, she appears. Jennylyn show, illuminates and tells me all yearn to know. With beats that pulse and sense that ignite, taking us to new heights.
You are watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and this is segment 3 of a series that I started called My Nightmare with CasSandra Tong, or Sandra Tong, and now we've added Ariane Bauman to this because these are the two people that, because of things they have done, has resulted in a story that I can tell you. And this is a story that I have been living. Before I bring Mel on, last week I read the definition of alien. And at the end of the segment, you were probably wondering why I did that. Well, it's in reference to Ariane Bauman. And as we continue with today's segment, you will find out exactly how. Now, one form of aliens on our planet that are coming up in a lot of conversations lately are known as reptilians. And so as tonight's segment continues, you will be able to connect the dots as the conversation continues. But as always, I like to start the segment off with something that I think it's relevant. And tonight, it is that angry, miserable, dark people love to make other people miserable. They thrive on their energy. They target the energy of people who carry a lot of light because their dark counterparts are looking for the same. And as we continue tonight's segment, you will understand why I'm reading this. But my advice to you is protect yourself because you never know. There are a few things I meant to tell you last week. Another thing is I'm dedicating tonight's segment to all the guides in the spiritual realm that are working with Mel, working with me. They've been working overtime. And I just want to dedicate this segment to them. And I know that they are hearing because we asked for extra protection tonight. Because last week, at the end of the segment, we'll tell you about that later in this segment if we have enough time. But two things I wanted to mention that I forgot last week. And one was the Saturday that I told you that Mel returned my essence, or the guides returned my essence to me. I left my home to do my Saturday routine, and I was walking into a store, and this Indian gentleman walked up to me and he goes, excuse me, ma'am. And I turned around and he said, "You are a very lucky woman. You have amazing things about to unfold in your life." And I was taken aback because it was so random. I was expecting him to say, "And if you pay me $40, I can help you, blah, blah, blah." But that's all he said. And he said, "I'm happy for you," and walked away. And I was stunned because of the timing. And so I thought I would share that with you. Now, today, Mel and I are going to share what happened last week after we ended the segment. Always at the end of the segment, I edit the footage so that I could put the tags and, if there's anything that needs to be removed. Anyway, normally tops it takes me a half an hour. Last week, it was a nightmare. Two things happened last week. During the segment, I heard a voice on the tape, and I asked Mel, "What was that?" And she said, "What?" So she clearly hadn't heard it. But if you play the tape and listen carefully, You will hear when I ask that question, you will hear something on the video. It's really blatant. And if you remember, we had to end the segment abruptly because I was being attacked. And so we got off camera and Mel cleared whatever was happening and I proceeded to edit. And after about 15 minutes, I text Mel. I go, Mel, something is going on. I have full internet access, but the computer continues to freeze. Like every 5 minutes, it's freezing and I keep losing my work. So Mel, I'm going to turn it over to you here.
Okay, so you contacted me and said, hey, I can't get it done. What's going on? So the first thing I do, of course, is I go and I energetically check to see what's going on, because that's how I work. Okay, everything's energy, so I energetically tune in to see what's happening. And I got visuals. I received information, and this is going to sound strange to your viewers, but what I saw was someone literally pouring something over the keyboard, and I heard the word acid. Now, your viewers are probably going to think, what are you talking about? How can someone be pouring acid over your keyboard when there's nobody physically there? Well, this is the kind of stuff that you and I have been dealing with, right? Because everything that is happening is in the spiritual realm, it's in the energetic realm. However, the energetic realm is strong enough to manifest into the physical. So what was happening was that a certain person, Dutchman is what I decided to call him, if you saw last segment, he decided to intervene and did not want to the segment to be published, because clearly the segment was about him, right?
Right.
So I saw a hand pour this acid that I was told was acid over the keyboard, and you literally it froze everything, right? And it did even more than that. So what I did was I went and I sort of started clearing it, but I realized quickly that there was more to it than that. There were repeated attacks coming from different things, I should say, and maybe you can pick up on that, because those different things were creatures. I don't know if I should say this on here, but I probably could. See, one of the things that Dutchman likes to do is he likes to use natural creatures, venomous creatures, as part of his attacks. What do I mean by that? For instance, you and I have been stung, okay, on multiple occasions. And I have been stung because I energetically go into your space and try to remove it. So they don't come after me, they go after you. But one of the things that was stinging you, I get a visual, was a black scorpion. Okay, so one of the things that happened while I was trying to work with this, removing this so-called acid, energetic acid from your keyboard last week, was that a scorpion sting was on my hand, and I knew that you were also still sort of suffering from the after effects of what was happening to you, right? Because there's always a time period after the clearing in which you sort of have to recuperate a little bit before you're back to normal. So it ended up being that it took us a couple hours, and with me literally having to lean over you, I could literally see myself leaning over you and the keyboard and shielding you both with my body, with my energetic body, because the attacks were coming, trying to literally prevent you from getting this information out. And you can explain what happened, what didn't work in the technical sense. But while that was happening, I could literally feel acid being poured on my back. It was uncomfortable for me. I could feel the stings of the scorpion and some other things. So this may sound really crazy to some people, but for those of us who are connected to a spiritual realm, and you who has been experiencing it physically, this is real. Okay, those are physical sensations and pain that you experience when this happens. So I don't know if you want to speak on what exactly happened during that time, what happened to your keyboard or the file. I don't know, but that's your department.
If you are having difficulty believing what we're sharing, I understand. I mean, it's happening to me, and it's still hard for me to wrap my head around it. And I was wondering why God and my guides and the angels have told me I have to share this story. And I believe the reason why is because they know I'm very comfortable in my skin. And I don't care what anybody watching this interview thinks of me. I do not answer to you. I answer to God. And when He has given me an assignment, I carry it out. As long as I clearly understand that's what I'm being called to do. I have suffered for 19 years things that were manifesting that I could not understand. I finally decided that maybe something is really wrong with me and I'm just odd, and that I have to suffer in a way that no other human had to. When Mel and I were dealing with the keyboard, I have been producing television and editing going on 15 years. Never in the history of my television production have I experienced anything like this. I have had times when I've had difficulty editing, but it was because I didn't have internet access. I had full internet access, and the computer continued to freeze. I'd be in the middle of editing and the computer would freeze, and then I'd have to shut it down because it would stay frozen. And then every time I put it back on, I'd lose the editing that I had done prior to the freezing. And after a while, I thought, what the heck is, I didn't even connect the dots for a while. I thought, what the heck is going on? Well, why is the computer doing that? And then all of a sudden, I heard my guides tell me to contact Mel. And at first, I ignored them because I felt like I had just usurped so much of her energy, clearing what was happening during the interview, that I didn't want to bother her again. But then I realized that I had to listen to them and contact her, because if I hadn't done that, I would lose the footage, because it was clear to me that someone was trying to erase the footage. So when Mel saw him pouring acid and doing, I know our human minds cannot easily conceive how this is possible, because growing up, we had no experience with this, but it is possible. I am telling you, it happened. And so Mel had to physically, and I felt horrible because she said, I am feeling what they do to you, because she was in my energy field. So whatever he was doing to me, she had to suffer it. But at least now she knows and she has an idea of how much I suffer. I'm just not a complainer, and I've learned how to deal with it. So Mel and I physically she had to stay like that for, was it about 45 minutes?
Like that. Yes, it was a while.
Took us 45 minutes in addition to my previous attempts before she joined me to try to help me so that I could get the footage edited. And when I did get it edited and I exported it to the files where I keep it before I'm able to pull it up on YouTube, I had issues there too. So it was clear that Dutchman, Arjen Bouwman, was trying to block me putting the information that we were releasing out there. But like I said before, I'm not here to answer to humans. I do what God tells me to do. Which leads me into the other event that happened that Mel and I would like to share. We talked about it, and we know it's going to be intense and deep for you. But I'm telling my story. And by the way, we're just giving you the skeleton. Details will be in the book. My birthday was this week. And every single morning I wake up and I pray and meditate for half an hour. It's the first thing I do every day. And I'm sure that you can imagine in my situation, it is essential. But before I even had this situation, I was someone who prayed a lot. That morning when I prayed, I said, God, today's my birthday, as you know. And what I want for my birthday is if there are any more souls trapped on this earth, I would like them to join the others and go to the light. Could I have this for my birthday? And I told Mel this when we spoke later in the morning. So I went on with my day. I had a fantabulous birthday. I have lots of really amazing people in my life who made the day very special, and I was very happy. I came home that night. Can we tell them Archangel Michael was here?
Of course.
I came home that night and something happened at the house that forced me to call Mel. And so Mel came on board as always to try to help me. And as I'm speaking right now, in this moment, I am connecting the dots. I am realizing now in this instance, the reason that the thing was happening is because they knew what was going to come, but we didn't. Remember? So I mentioned Rita, who I told you has crossed, and she is my old Mel. I said that Mel is my new Rita. She was also here at my house, and I can't see them, but Mel can. Mel saw Archangel Michael and Rita here in my house with a glass of champagne. And so I said, what are they celebrating? And I was being attacked, and they had Mel back off, and they were doing something to my body. We still were not quite sure what they did. Anyway, up until did you hear that? Okay. Something else just happened. We'll see if it's on the tape. Did you hear it?
I didn't hear it either, so it must be coming out on your end.
Yeah, I heard it the second time now. Anyway, I went to bed, and as far as I know, when I went to bed, Archangel Michael and Rita were still here with me at my house. I always wake up before my alarm. For some reason, I did not wake up the morning after. The alarm woke me up, and it was going 10 minutes before I heard it. So I got up and like, oh my God, I overslept. I jumped out of my bed and did the normal things I do when I first wake up. Thank God for my life, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard clearly again, turn the camera on. And I'm like, turn the camera on. I'm late. I'm not going to bother with the camera this morning. There was nothing going on the camera last night. Anyway, I kept hearing, turn the camera on. I turned the camera to the backyard on, and I cannot make this up. The evidence will be here. I will put the video for you to see for yourself. It took about maybe 5 or 6 seconds, and then all of a sudden was like a floodgate opened, and all I could see were souls going up to heaven. I was so overwhelmed. My jaw dropped. I could not believe they were going up, and you'll see it yourself when you look at the video. And I could not believe that exactly what I asked for my birthday, I was given. And now I think that is why Archangel Michael and Rita were here, and why she had the champagne, because they were celebrating, because the gift I asked for was going to be granted. And so once again, Mel and I helped save millions, it looked to me like, because this went on for like 2 days of these. We don't know how they get here. We don't know where they come from, but we don't need to know. All I know is these souls were set free. And therein lies the answer to my mission on the earth. And I will have Mel speak to this. This will explain why I had not one, but two people that are in the hierarchy of the dark world trying to bring me down. It was for that reason that I just described. And I know you're going to have difficulty with this, but you can see the video for yourself. I have no way of manufacturing that. And so, Mel, you can explain to them what that was all about.
Okay, I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. In order to grasp what I'm about to say, I have to tell your audience that the reptilians that you mentioned are a species that does exist here on this plane, okay, in physical form as well. Okay, that's of importance in this statement. I know that the ones that we are dealing with are in ethereal form, and that's all part of it too, but the reptilian race actually has physical form. They look like human beings, and those who sometimes may be a little bit more apt to look into the conspiracy world will find that there are there's much speculation out there about people in governments and royalty and so forth having been connected to the reptilians. Also, a lot of times places such as Hollywood and the music industry and so forth. I mean, just prominent places of influence is where these beings can be found. And I, from a perspective that I see things, I can attest to this. Okay, I don't really know if others have the ability to see it. I know that many spiritual people have also confirmed this, but in the spiritual community, we are aware that this exists and we can pinpoint those people out at times. Okay, now, that said, to answer your question, the reptilian race has been wanting to control the human race for a very long time. We're talking thousands of years. Okay, so this is why I have to sort of give the backstory for your audience. And the reptilian race, as such, has been really, really strongly integrated and really caught a hold on humanity since then, since they initially came here. Now, through certain methods of hypnosis and so forth that I have experienced, and my spirit guides' information, I was made aware of that there are a certain group of individuals that mostly female, okay, they're a female is what I'm told, that are called the gifted. They call them the gifted. And this isn't meant in a sense that others who have gifts aren't gifted either, but there's a certain something about these gifted females or female souls, so to speak, that is very special and very threatening to the reptilian race in particular. And during this so-called hypnosis type of regression that I had during one of my sessions with a dear friend of mine, I came to understand that this particular race actually has been out to capture and stop these gifted from progressing over time. And what I mean by progressing is becoming awakened, becoming enlightened. Okay, their soul's expansion taking place over centuries and thousands of years, because the awakened gifted person or female rather will be able to stop them in some shape or form. They can do things that can stop them. And so we figured out that you are one of those. Okay, so that is why you have so much reptilian activity. And well, we didn't even touch on this yet. Your audience is probably thinking, well, what does that have to do with Chinese woman and Dutch man? Well, we didn't get into that yet. Here's the connection. Dutch man is connected to the reptilians. And I'm actually going to say this on camera here now, is that Dutchman actually is part reptilian, okay? And his maternal line is reptilian. And that Dutchman, I'm going to take it further, Dutchman cannot fully change form, because here's the thing. It is said that they can change form, or many of them can, but he cannot. He can only change partial form. And let's maybe touch on this, Jennylyn, because I have seen his yellow eyes with the reptilian, slits, and so have you, right? This is something that neither of us knew that the other was seeing, but we both confirmed it. So we've seen him looking at us through the ethereal realm with these eyes.
And by the way, I'm just going to interrupt and say, when I was dating him and he got angry, his eyes changed. And they were really scary, but I just thought that's how his rage was affecting his physical appearance, because I was so naive and green about all of this. And so you all know, I have learned about this because I'm in it. And when you're in it, you better learn, otherwise it will destroy you. And I'm not an expert, but at least I've learned enough to understand what I'm dealing with and what is going on around me. So when Mel saw his eyes and told me, I said, yes, that's how he got, when he got really, really, really enraged, which was often.
Yes. So to get back to him and his line. So you might recall that last segment I mentioned his grandmother, and she was something else. I was actually referring to his grandmother also being reptilian, but she was the one who could completely change a form. And at least that is what my spirit teams told me. Okay, so I know people are going to look at me in this video and going to say, well, she's off her rocker, but that's okay. I know, I believe it because we've had connections. We connect with these beings, okay? And they have been in your life very much recently. They have come to
Can I add something else, Mel?
Yes.
Mel and I are not crazy. I started getting some very strange smells a while back, and I could not figure out what was going on. And they were always followed by an attack, like one of the stabbing feelings in my chest. When you're finished explaining this, then I'll tell them what happened last night.
Okay. I think I'm pretty much finished. I don't know. So I was talking about him and his, so your viewers understand why we're talking about reptilians here, and why there are reptilians that are coming to you and are now trying, or have been trying to get to you, and have been, acting in connection with these demonic beings. As a matter of fact, here's a little piece of information as well. From what I gather is the demonic entities and the reptilians kind of work together, but the reptilian beings being the superior. Okay, so therefore it's the reptilian beings who sort of control, or the demonic beings in some shape or form. So there's definitely a hierarchy there, if you want to put the two of them on a scale like this, if you want to compare them that way. And also, as such, the attacks that you have been experiencing now, that he's been pulling out of his hat. Because here's one thing I want to mention to your audience, is that the previous attempts for him that he made to hurt you and to affect you have sort of been taken care of as they came, right? We have sort of eliminated them one by one. And
Mel is a rock star at this. Guys, I am not kidding you. I don't know how she does it, but I've had some horrible things. You know that one of them took me to the hospital, or caused me to have to go to the hospital. Well, that was Sandra Tongue using demons on that. Oh no, it was a reptilian she used, right? For that attack.
to be honest with you, I No, I think it was her, but she was trying to put this essence, this big blob that she was gaining your essence from. She was trying to put that back in. That was a whole nother story. So
Okay.
they love your chest area, and because this is where your divine heart sits. Okay, this is where the soul resides. It's said to reside. This is like the heart of the human being. Okay, so this is why the chest is really, really an area that has targeted a lot, okay,
Yeah.
and has been by
Yeah.
her and him.
Daily. I'm driving to work and I feel like these stabbing pains in my chest, and then I can't breathe. I feel like someone is constricting my chest so tight I can't breathe, and I panic a little bit. And a lot of times I'll just call Mel. Mel, I'm driving and I'm being attacked. And she's so wonderful. She doesn't complain. And listen, people, somebody asked me the other day, how much are you paying Mel? Do not pay Mel a penny, people. I'm not saying if you call her, she'll work for you for free because she has her bills to pay. My case is so complicated. She is helping me because she's sad that I've been suffering this long. And so she's doing this for me and has become a friend. And so, no, I am not paying Mel, and she's not stringing this along because I'm paying her. This is how bad it is. And I wanted to make sure that this is a question I get often from people. So I just wanted to clarify this because it just occurred to me that I should say something about it. Um, Last night, Mel and I touch base every night before we sleep, and we're like, fingers crossed, everything is good. I'm going to sleep tonight. I went to sleep 1 a.m. I was jolted out of my sleep. I felt like if you're a woman and you've had a pap smear, that's how I felt. It was excruciating. So it jarred me out of my sleep. And then the pain sort of radiated from my uterus area. I felt it coming up my chest, up to my head, and it was bad. And I thought, oh my God, Mel is asleep. What am I going to do? And so I'm not going to tell you what I said because you'll be disappointed. But like I said last week, I'm a light, but I can be dark when I have to protect myself. And I keep the broomstick very close to the wings. And so I pulled out my broomstick and I tried. And I'm not sure that it helped me a lot because I do not have Mel's skills. And so I called upon my angels and my guides, and things sort of eased up for me. And then I went back to sleep. And then I sent Mel a text at 1 a.m. So when she woke up, she would find out what had happened to me during the night. And in typical Mel form, as soon as she woke up, she's like, "What?" And so I told her what happened, and she cleared it. Mel, do you want to explain to them, my viewers, why we think that these okay, quickly, I believe the reptilians are after me because I found out one of the reasons that Mel and I found out, you told me, one of the reasons that they capture these souls and keep them. I was told that reptilians are like, they don't have a soul like humans. And so they need the human soul to survive. Otherwise, I did some research, I read, where if they don't have this, they kind of shrivel up and then they die. I don't know if they die, but they can't function. And this is why they capture human souls. This stuff is heavy, heavy, heavy. I know. It was hard for me to wrap my head around it. So if you have no experience at all with what I am going through, you can turn this segment off. But Mel, do you want to explain why they're attacking us so much now? Why you think? Because we're not sure.
Well, there probably are a couple of reasons. One reason is because again, Dutchman is connected to the reptilians, and as such, he is sending them to do sort of, to fix what he couldn't do, or what he's not able to doing anymore, or hasn't been able to do. So there's one part to it. And then of course there's the whole thing with the souls, okay, that are coming out of which appears to be a basement area or somewhere from the ground right in your home. And I remember the first time, and you had this on the first segment, right, that you did with me on with those souls, that video that you showed, is that when we first thought when you first thought that those were entities that were coming in, and you were a little bit afraid of it, and I figured out it was actually human souls. I asked my spirit team, I said, well, why are they coming out of there? Of course, I was perplexed just as much as you, right? Because that's not something you normally see. And I was told that you are taking their food. So my first thought is, well, whose food am I taking? Whose food are we taking? And it turns out it's the reptilians. So therefore, what's happening is, and we're not saying that these souls have been placed underneath your home necessarily, but from what I gather, and I've seen this etherically, is that they're being pulled in from different areas, and they're coming into that particular place because we have the ability to release them. Because remember, I think it was last time.
The bubble.
Correct. I was just going to say there was a bubble around your house that was sort of like pulling, or these beings, or these souls in. And this is something that I don't get involved in. I know that every time these souls come out, we notice that there are ethereal beings, angels and so forth, that are outside. We notice.
Yes, we see them.
Correct. We see them, or there's this particular winged creature that seems to be popping up, this golden winged creature. And I, through my, my psychic eye, I can see them standing in your yard sometimes. And we know when they're there, something's going to happen. So, that's kind of what it is there are many different entities, divine beings that are involved in this. And, I'm going to take it a step further even, because your viewers are probably going to wonder, where are all these souls coming from, right? Are they, I thought people go to heaven when they pass away, right? Well, this is what I thought, okay, too. This was my question. When I asked my spirit team, I was told, not only are some of these souls have been already stored away, so they're coming from other places where they were already kept and captured, if you so will. But one thing that was, I was told at one point was, why do you think there's so many wars? And my brain, of course, immediately went to, oh, wow, are you telling me that these wars, there's always wars, and those people always perpetuate wars and start wars because they need new souls and people who are dying? And all I received was a yes. So I'm here to tell your audience, as much as, wars, those who start wars, those people who are starting wars, those politicians and world leaders who are starting wars, be very much aware of what may be going on in the background. Okay, it's more than you think. So
connect the dots. Connect the dots. And I believe this is why God has asked me to share this experience with the world. And I also believe it's why he's allowed these things to happen to me. Because without the experience, I would probably be like you, watching me thinking, wacko. So this is truly why I believe all of this has happened to me, because I was born to be one of those women that Mel just described. What are they called? Or what women?
They're called the gifted, and it is the feminine soul, correct? But I want to clarify that these feminine souls can also incarnate in a male form. Okay. Particular souls are feminine souls, because the divine feminine is currently, rising and is changing the world in this new era. So that's kind of where this goes. Yes, I want to also add to what you just said, Jennylyn, is you did need to experience some sort of hardship. And I'm not saying that every one of these gifted is going to be experiencing it to that extent. But I was told that the gifted who are meant to do this in order to get where they are, in order to be able to stand in their true and full power, they have to deem themselves worthy in some form. And worthiness in the divine sense, in the higher sense, is that you can remain in the light and that you can remain grateful for what you have, even in the darkest of times. And this can be, I mean, you are the perfect example of this. And this can, come in many forms, right? So there are others out there. There are many others out there who are also considered the gifted, but these people are most definitely these women or men, if they are incarnated as such, are also being targeted. So that's just one of those things, right? It's just how it is. So I wanted to just add that.
And by the way, Mel said she's never seen a case like mine before. I would imagine there can't be too many cases like this. I feel like I've been put through every single thing that can happen, because when you read the book, you will read what Mel has removed from my body. I can't imagine how that many things could have been placed in my tiny body. I'm only 5'4", and I weigh 116 pounds. Where did they find the space to put the things that Mel has removed from my body? And it will be in the book. And as fast as she takes them out, they put them back. And that's what happened last night. They were attempting to replace something that Mel had removed. And I think we'll put this one in the book to protect ourselves.
Of course, yes. But I want to add, it's not just, yes, they are trying to put them back, but what we are essentially working on is to disable those who are doing it. Okay, that's why that part is so important. The source is what matters. And there are different ways, and it's going to be in the book too, then, what it is I'm talking about. There are ways to disable those who wish harm upon others and who break certain rules in the ethereal world. Okay, there are unspoken rules and there are laws, cosmic laws, that these people are breaking. And when they're mostly not even aware of it, because they're so living in their ego and their confidence and their arrogance that they don't even realize that when they're faced with something that is potentially detrimental to them. And I think part of the reason, again, why Dutchman has now resorted to reptilian interference more so than ever before is because his other works have started to fail. Okay, so he wanted to sort of get some bigger things going. And I have to say that reptilian interference and reptilian energy is probably one of the most difficult to deal with. And I'm sure that others in the field of energy removal and dark entity removal will agree. Okay, so demonic entities are not as strong as reptilian energies are. So I just want to say that, just so your audience gets sort of a comparison. But they're both bad. Okay, they're both difficult. But on the scale, reptilian is probably at the top. Okay, just so you know.
And they have caused me a tremendous amount of suffering. So much so that one day when Mel removed something from my body, she said she physically felt the pain and the sorrow that I had been living in.
Yes. Yes. And not just yours, but what I couldn't identify what I was feeling, because it was so overwhelming. It was so extremely intense. That afterwards I sat with it and I came to the conclusion, with the help of my spirit team, that what I was actually also sensing was grief. And it wasn't just grief for you and what you've experienced, but for other souls. Because what I removed was attached or had the energies of all the beings that it hurt. in it as part of it. So it was probably one of the most difficult and heart-wrenching things I've done. Not just in your case, but period. Okay. From an emotional standpoint, because I want your audience to understand that when you're like me and you connect with energies, I am not an empath, so I don't sense people's emotions, and I'm glad I can't do that because I couldn't. Okay, but when I connect with a certain energy, that is when I sort of take on or connect with that emotion or that feeling or the pain or the trauma that is associated with that energy. Okay, I have to literally connect with it physically or tune into it. And when I do that, and when I do that with entities or energies and things that have been used in a multiple or multitude of evil ways, it's the best way I can describe it. You're naturally going to find emotional stuff that is just too much for one person to handle. So it took me just to give your audience an idea. After I removed this, what we're going to talk about in the book, it took me hours. I was jittery. I felt like crying, and I did break down a couple times afterwards. That is how difficult that was emotionally, even afterwards, until I could completely let it go and purge it from myself and my soul and my body. That's how strong it was. So
We're almost out of time. And one thing I wanted us to share before we go. Mel, is there anything you want to leave with them? There was something I was going to say and it just got wiped clean while you were speaking. If it comes back, I will mention it. Otherwise, we'll save it for next week. Is there anything else Oh, I know what I was going to say. Yesterday, Mel discovered, and this was confirmation for me, that the Black woman who came and stayed in my home under the pretense of coming to do what Mel is doing, to help me, was actually sent there by Sandra Tong and probably the Dutchman, because we know they all work together in their world. Mel found Sandra Tong had bits of my personal belongings still hidden under. Mel, you want to share that real quickly before we go?
Sure. So what I was looking for is, it initially started because I was looking for a cord. I was looking to see if there was a cord between you and Sandra, to see if there's anything I've missed, because, I was looking for the cord with the Dutchman, but it never occurred to me to look for a cord with her. For some reason, I just wasn't. And there really wasn't a cord. There was something similar to it, and we took care of it, but there really wasn't a cord. But what I did find, it led me to what I saw was a box that was sort of pushed under a bed or something. And this box had personal belongings, and I don't know exactly couldn't see or identify all of the belongings. There were small things, but one thing that was clear that was shown to me was a hair. And it wasn't a hair that you cut off nice and clean from somebody's head, but it was the kind of bushel of hair that you get when you're empty or clean out your hairbrush, right? Every once in a while, that's what that looked like. So she had, that under her bed. And of course, I told you about it. And the first thing you asked me was, how would she be able to get this? And immediately to mind came the woman, the Black woman that was there in your home. And I'm actually inclined to say, and this is something that I want to correct. I'm not quite sure if she went to your home initially with the intention of doing harm, but I do believe that she was contacted and that she then turned the corner.
Are you kidding me?
I don't believe that the Black woman, I think she initially went with the intention of doing exactly what it is she wanted to do. But the circumstances were such that money talks, BS walks, if you so will. Okay. So that is why she then also asked you for lots of cash in order to do something at the end. And I told you this before, it was to outbid another. And the reason why I say this is because
I think they did this to everyone that I went to for help.
Yes, and it's quite possible, I mean, nobody has contacted me with money, I tell you that. Not that I would take it, but it's certainly, I mean, she was in California, right? She was close to where the woman, Sandra lives.
Sandra lives, yeah.
Right, so it would have been really easy to sort of get a hold of that person, right? Maybe show up at the door one day while you were doing something else, right? Her opening the door and saying, "Hey, listen, how about this?" I mean, I don't know. I'm not here to put forth any kind of information that I can't confirm, but I am getting the sense here that the Black woman did initially have intentions that were meant to help you, and that if something happened and she turned the corner. Okay, because here's why I say this is, and you know this, when I told you this, when I looked at her picture again that you sent me recently, I told you what it was, right? What that I received from her. Her picture, she does not, when I look at it, it does not scream evil. It does not like the other two, okay? And we have both the other pictures, okay? I can't even look at the other two pictures. They make me, oh, I can't even. And it's an energetic standpoint, okay? I have nothing against what they look like. It's more, it's their energy is attached to them that I just cannot take. But the Black woman absolutely doesn't bother me at all. Very neutral. So therefore, that is why if she was someone who was completely in lieu or in connection with them at all times, I would have picked that up. She was just a good opportunity at a good time.
Wow. Well, I am telling you, people, maybe this is why I'm sharing this segment. If you're in a similar situation, you have to be really discerning. Because I think the very first segment I did on this story, I said that when you are vulnerable, you have to be so careful because there are those vultures that have no regard for your suffering. They just see opportunity. And this is why you have to be so very careful. I just think it's a miracle that Mel is in my life. I truly believe she was divinely placed in my life to help me. And so I'm really hoping if your situation is anything like mine, you have a Mel or contact Mel. I'm not selling Mel. She doesn't want me to sell you. We just want people to get help. And being someone who's gone through every single thing that they could possibly do in the dark world to bring another person down, I don't want anyone to go through not even one of those things that I've endured over 20 some years. So this is why I put myself out here and we share, Mel and I share these stories that is so difficult for you to conceptualize, but we are telling the truth from the perspective of her clearing me and me living it. And this is it for this week. We've gone way over our normal time. And so next week we will be back. And I'm not even telling you what we're going to say because things are happening so fast that our heads are spinning. But one quick thing I'm going to share before we go. Before I was aware of the reptilians, they did a lot of things to me and I couldn't figure out who was doing it. When I first moved into this house, I have some stuff stored in the basement. And I wake up at 5 in the morning because I like to leave home at 7:30 to go to work. I went down to the basement to get something, and I'm in my flimsy pajamas. And the only thing I had was my phone. I came back up at 5 in the morning. Somebody locked the door to get back into the house. And I'd gone through a series of mishaps to where everybody was saying, "What is wrong with you?" People were saying, "We're going to take you to the ocean and give you a bath." because they have never seen one person encounter so many disasters. So now I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I have to go to work. It's 5 a.m. I'm half naked. I sat on the stairs and started crying because I can't get back in the house. I don't know what to do. Everyone is sleeping. The only other person who has a key to my house is my landlady. Fortunately, she lived 2 blocks from my house. And I'm thinking, she's not going to be awake at 5 a.m. She doesn't go to work. So I sat in the freezing cold, half naked, in the back, kind of waiting on time. And then I heard my guide say, just call her. And I didn't call. I sent a text and I go, I am so, so sorry. I am locked out of my house. I went to get something from the basement. I don't know who locked the door. The door is locked. It's only today I connected who locked the door. And so she says, oh, I'm awake. And I said, okay, I'll come to get it, forgetting what I'm wearing. So 5:10 a.m., I'm running down the street half naked with my phone to her house to get the key, to get back in the house, because I had nothing else with me and I had no access to anything else to cover myself up. My car was outside, but it was locked. The keys were in the house. So I went running, freezing cold to her house. She opened the door. She looked at me and she goes, would you like me to drive you back? Because I was practically naked. Fortunately, it was so early in the morning, a lot of people weren't driving by. That was my one saving grace. And I said, no, it's okay. I will run back because I felt bad asking her to get out of her house. She was also in her pajamas, except she had a robe so that I could get back here to get back in the house. And the second thing, in case you're thinking there's no such thing as a reptilian, shortly after that, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned this to Mel. I was picking up something in my backyard. There was nobody there. Someone came and slapped me on my bottoms, just like a human would slap me. And I turned around. There was no one there, but that smell was there. So now when we found out about these R's, because I did not know, I'd heard talk of them, but I kept getting a smell in the yard. And then suddenly all the dots connected. And we will be back next week. Sorry, guys. Sorry to take you on this journey of craziness, but it's real craziness. It's not made up craziness. Mel, I'm going to let you wrap it up, and then we will see them next week.
Well, you said it all. There's not much more to say to today. For today, we will be telling your viewers hopefully more things next week, and some good news, hopefully, because there are always new things that I'm finding and new things that I'm doing, and this is also part of the reason why I believe we are meant to connect, because again, as you mentioned, I've never had a case like this. So there are many things that I encounter that I have not encountered before, and that allow me to sort of understand things better as I move along as well, so that I now have this sort of under my belt and know what this looks like if I ever encounter it again. So that's what I'm going to leave it at today.
And thank you so much. If you want to judge us, go ahead and judge. We're doing our Father's will, and I've just been a victim of the craziness that has been tasked with sharing it with the world, because someone or some people will hopefully know they're not alone and find help. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
From the shadows, she appears, Jenny